the rich man would go to Abraham's bosom,
Yeah.
and the poor one go to hell. But that because
Yes.
they believed that prosperity was a sign, a sure sign of being blessed by God and being on God's good side. God knows the same point. It can be anything. There's so much in this parable. Anybody else? If you were to give a name, a title to this parable, what would you call it? Just to forget the parable, just look at the story itself in general. What would you call the story, this whole parable, this whole account, and why would you name it that? Anybody else?
Now, look, and I would say, choose to accept Christ today while you have the capability to. Don't put it
All
off till tomorrow.
right. All right. Like what Hebrews say, right? Today, if you hear his voice, harden not your heart, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. That's important too. Any other thoughts? What would you call it? What title would you give it? Anybody else? And that's going to be based on what springs out to your mind from the parable. Anybody else? All right. What I would call it, and what I've always called this parable, is acting on the truth.
I was just about to say something, but go ahead.
Sister Debbie, go ahead.
Now, I was thinking, how are you persuaded? Because I always think that the last the last paragraph, the last verse kind of stand out to me because it is asking how do you receive the message? And then at the end, to me now they're hardened. It doesn't matter who bring the message now. So at the end of it, you're fixed. So he didn't have to go send the dead to his brothers because he would not receive. No, he would more receive of the dead. That's what he's saying. But he already have Moses and the prophet. So he should have been persuaded from that already. How are you persuaded? That's what I would think.
Yeah. Very good thoughts. Very good thoughts. Sometimes people want something miraculous and supernatural to convince them. Go ahead, Sister Larissa.
Yes, I'm alluding to what Sister Debbie says because I'm really impressed about from the last verse. It just shows the utter blindness. Because if someone comes up from the dead, you can't even see that. It shows how important it is to understand, and it's the Spirit that actually interprets the scriptures, because we can read the same scriptures and see two different things, actually 10 different things, depending on who you are, where you're from, your culture, etc. So it's like the ultimate truth comes from the Spirit and the Spirit alone. And it says if they can't hear that, I mean, if they don't understand Moses and the prophets, you can come back from the dead and you'd still be so blind that you can't see that someone came from the dead. So it's not going to make, it's a moot point. It's not going to make a difference. It's just so powerful to show the utter blindness of the minds of the people. That can mean us as well.
Yes. Jesus said to the Jews, he said to the Jews, he said, a wicked, that is Matthew 16:4, a wicked and adulterous generation seeketh after a sign, and there shall no sign be given it but the sign of the prophet Jonah. And he left them and departed. In fact, in Matthew 12:39, he says the same thing. He answered and said to them, an evil and adulterous generation seeketh after a sign, there shall no sign be given it. Over and over again, despite the mighty things that Jesus was doing in their midst, and not just the miracles alone, despite the life that they saw being lived out in front of them day by day, the most powerful witness, they still said, show us more miracles, show us more miracles. We want supernatural things to convince us. So they came to Jesus after Jesus did mighty things and said, give us a sign, give us some more signs. Do some more miraculous things, as if Jesus was supposed to be an entertainer. And Jesus said, it's an adulterous generation that's seeking after a sign, but no more signs will be given you. You see, A lot of people believe that it is supernatural events that convinces the mind and persuades the heart to change. A lot of people believe that. But in the parable, Abraham said, look, you want to go back and tell them because you think they're going to believe because you came back from the dead. Notice, when Jesus resurrected Lazarus from the dead 6 months later, did it convince them? No. Why? Abraham, in the parable, said, they have Moses and the prophets. Let them hear them. And if they don't hear them, neither will they believe, even if one came back from the dead. In other words, the strongest witness that God has given to us is his word. And when the word is clear and is plain, and we reject it, we place ourselves where not even supernatural manifestation can change our mind. We were talking this morning about Pharaoh's hardening of his heart. That is basically a spin-off from that, how that happens. Ravi said, there are some people for whom no amount of evidence will be sufficient. Abraham was saying to this man right now, the rich man in hell, look, your brothers, if they don't act upon the truth that they have now, they're going to get to a point where no amount of truth or no amount of evidence can change them. Not even supernatural evidence will change them. In other words, God has given to us the most powerful evidence in his word. And the word comes to us backed by the Spirit because the word is a sword of the Spirit. The Spirit of God wields the word as you wield a sword. He wields it into our understanding to give us meaning and relevance and to make it clear and to fix it within our mind that we can say, oh yes, I see it. It's good. And to walk in that way. And what he's saying is that they have the word. They have Moses and they have the prophets. And if they have it and they're not following it, ultimately they will come to a place where it doesn't matter, no amount of supernatural evidence will change their mind. You could go back to warn them and they're going to say, yeah, come sit down and let's eat and drink and be merry. It won't change. So that's why I say it should be acting on the truth. Because what I see in it, and we don't have to